Hey everyone, I'm back. The Grim Reader is back on Friday to continue the update. It's still updating, and so I'm very dependent on my little journals that I keep of what I looked at. So I decided apparently last Friday. So as I've been mentioning, I've been spending quite a bit of time on Bluesky, the new Twitter for people who hate Twitter for reasons that are known. Probably too much time, but it's just kind of fun to be able to relax into a new, and I get really kind of, it's an interesting thing because basically I'm very introverted, but then when it comes to responding to people, I have no problem just talking to people on there in a very sort of casual, I don't care if I know them or they know me type way. I've been adding a lot of on Bluesky this thing there's this thing called starter packs. That's a list of people who are, all historians or all historians of the 16th or 17th century, or very kind of specific. And since so many things interest me, I just kind of click on them and add a bunch of people to my feed, which means I'm following too many people. And but it does allow for interaction, and you see interesting things. So I think it's okay to get used to a new place on the internet. And so apparently last Friday, what happened is, so there's this thing called read-alongs where you read along with people on either Twitter and now Bluesky, I guess still on Twitter if you want to. And it's a very sort of low stakes buddy read type thing, which is appealing to me because of my kind of not able to gauge how much I'll be able to read. I'm a slow reader. I like to take things at my own pace. And so what happens is that you decide to read something and you use a hashtag to check in with people as to what you're reading. And at the beginning of the year, I think, I'm not exactly sure when, I did join one by these two wonderful women who were on Twitter back then. And I think they're still on Twitter, but now they're sort of on Bluesky. Kim O'Neill and Rebecca Hussey, they have handles that perhaps I can put them in down below, just so you can check them out. And they do these read-alongs, quite complicated, where I think they even have substacks where they talk about this stuff too. So it's another place to interact with the people. And they did something where they read Kate Briggs, this British writer, her nonfiction work about translation, The Little Art, in conjunction with a big long book of Barth's last essays. And I, of course, ran to get them both and have them both. And I did get bogged down pretty quickly because of work. And it was just it was too intense of a read along for me to be able to do. And so I had to sort of just bow out. And they're fine with that. That's the nice thing about these low stakes things. You can just bow out pretty easily. But then what has happened is after reading, I think they've already read her novel, the long form, which I had also, I don't know if I bought it or if I got it when I joined a podcast Patreon between the covers. But anyway, I do have a copy of the long form and I have started reading it. And it's a beautiful book, a beautiful, intense book, about very sort of, it's about how, like, just depicting how one consciousness experiences moment to moment life. So it's very sort of slow moving, and she's interacting with her newborn baby Rose and kind of giving Rose her due as a being that is interacting with the world, and it's really, really beautifully done and beautifully written. Not very far into it, but so I think they already have read this. But in the book, one of the sort of things that happens is that she starts reading another novel, and that's the 1749, I want to say, so kind of the same year as Clarissa. Maybe, I'm not quite sure if it's the same year. Anyway, it's a British canonical work, Tom Jones by Henry Fielding. And of course I had to get this edition, my little addiction to the Oxfords. I didn't have an edition. I have two other Fieldings on my shelf, not like old books. I have Joseph Andrews in a nice illustrated old-timey version, and there's another one, another penguin that I have. It's neither this one or that one. It's something else entirely. And I've never read Fielding, and so I decided to, and so now they're doing this, and they're calling it a continuation of the whole kind of Briggs stuff, and then moving into this. And of course, I'm coming into it late because I didn't do the first part, but they're very nice and very welcoming, and they say it doesn't matter. You can, it's like a, jump on when you can, which is fantastic for someone like me. And I'm interested in 18th century literature because I'm unfamiliar with it, and I don't feel like, I feel really quite at home in especially British 19th century literature, German too, actually, to the book. But for example, when I read German 18th century literature, specifically this one guy, Jean-Paul, I have a hard time, but I really want to get beyond the hard time. It's just figuring out the reference. It's very referential. And the language is fascinating because, like in Fielding, 18th century English just uses words. It gives different valences to the words that we still use. Like person means external features, not the person like we use it. It means the outer form. Just things like that are fascinating me. And also I love the novels. I haven't read that many, but I think, was it last year when I read Closer? I listened to it mainly, but also read it, now and then. And it became my favorite book of the year because I love, there's this new word that's going around my head. It's not a great word, but the granularity, the getting down deep into describing people's motives for their actions. And that book was just such a sort of, I mean, on the one hand, it's quite depressing because it's like the sort of gradual destruction of a person's will, but yet it's fascinating. It was absolutely, I loved it so much. I can't even express how much I loved it. And the writing was so strong. To me, it sort of was almost Shakespearean. I mean, I don't know how he did it because it's also very 18th century. And I know this is a different tone. This is funny, bawdy, perhaps. I mean, I read Tristram Shandy. I don't think I really kind of loved it as much as I should have. It's one of these key works for a lot of postmodern people use Tristram Shandy as an example of deconstruction. Anyway, point being, I'm reading this, and it's a read-along, and I think both of them are really good. Kim's the one who sort of does these great little, on her website, she cuts out schedules for us that are so useful. And you can print them out, and it's all the book is in here, and just this is the perfect way to do a read along. It's like to be very structured in what they are reading, but also to be acknowledge the fact that not everyone will be able to keep up. And it's a long book. It's another chunky thing. I go for the chunkies. It's like 800 pages. 800 in my copy. It's 871 pages. And apparently I'm finishing it when school starts, so it will take me through to the end of January if I keep up, which I plan to do, because this is when I have time. And so I'm happy with my choice of this book. Henry Fielding is someone I'll get to know better, and I'm also kind of really excited about the interplay between the long form and this, and which I think is kind of one of what's going to happen in here. She's sort of decided to read this one. And I'll be in conversation with the other people on the Bluesky too. So if you want to join, come along for the ride. Not that many people are into 18th century stuff though. It's a bit of an acquired taste, as a lot of things that I like are. So that's that. Let's see, is there anything else I need to update you on? That was the main new thing, is that whole Kate Briggs, Tom Jones, Bluesky read-along thing that just kind of happened. I fell into that. And another thing that I wanted to talk about, just connected to the long form book, is that Kate Briggs has quite a few things on the internet, on YouTube, interviews with her. And there's one fantastic interview with her and another writer whose book I did get from Between the Covers. So I'm back. So here's the other book. So they were interviewing Kate Briggs and Pip Adams, who is a New Zealand writer, Aotearoa, and she wrote The New Animals, and you can sort of see there's a similarity. These square shaped, I actually love this shape. I love this sort of little chunky square shape. And I haven't read this yet, but I started it and I really want to read it now. I mean, even before I saw her. But I didn't realize that it's the same publisher, and it's the Dorothy Project, which is a fantastic sort of new publisher. And it's run by two English professors, I gather, or writers, but also they teach for, I think they teach at or they were teaching at Washington U in St. Louis. And so that's Danielle Dutton, whose name kind of rang a bell. And her husband, I think it's her husband, Martin Riker, they founded this beautiful publishing company where they really just publish 2 a year. And they've got some really interesting works on there. There's other ones that I'm really interested in. So sort of independent publishing, which is another sort of area I need to get into more, perhaps, I don't know. But I found out that Danielle Dutton has written a book that I've always wanted to read, and that's the one about Margaret Cavendish. It has this beautiful cover of her face, a picture of her face. And so it's like it's all coming together. It's all kind of intertwining, all these things that I sort of didn't know I knew, or I didn't know that they are connected. So I wrote down here the Dorothy Project, Danielle Dutton, who wrote the Cavendish book. And she's written other really interesting works. And her husband's also written novels. So really kind of, for me, strangely current or modern stuff that I'm reading alongside all the other stuff. Anyway, I think that's it for the update. I will, even though I'm not going to do Vlogmas, but I sort of feel I just owe it mainly to myself, but who is ever interested, I still want to continue with the flip through of my journal, which is stationary niche stationary content, and not for everyone, I understand that. But I am only up to September, so I need to kind of go in and do that. So September, October, November, December. And then at some point, I'm kind of interested, because I like to see people's, like, what they've decided to do for 2025 in terms of their planning and that. And so I might do one of those as well at some point. But maybe not before school gets out after next week, or if I'm inspired today, we'll see. I always have a lot to do. But the main thing I want to do is get some reading done. Marlena and the long form and my audio, Fortunes of War, or The Great Fortune. So it's all going well. And yeah, let me know. Patty was commenting on books that where the quote by Krishna, difficult to find your footing, is a good way to kind of describe some of these novels that we get hooked on. And just as a giveaway at the end, Krishna, I need to read her, and maybe even Kusk. I get them a little bit confused, but I said, oh, now I know that one of them, I think Kusk is the Canadian and Krishna's American. I think that's right. I'm not sure. Maybe it's the other way around. Gosh, I'm bad with similar names. Have you read them? Should I read them? Do I need to be reading them? Probably I do. And I also hope to be watching a little bit more of the channels that I watch. So yeah, anyway, we'll see. Take care, everyone, and I'll talk to you soon. And thank you all for watching and liking and all those things. See you soon. Bye-bye.